This story begins with a crowd of people attending a public execution. The guy is burned alive, but it's not the flames that consume him. It's the pain, anger, and hatred. Sometime before these events, Cain is in audience with the queen. She offers him to defeat the queen of the black dragons, and as a reward, she promises to become his wife. Cain was motivated by such a generous offer, and after a while the guy managed to find the dragon queen. The battle wasn't that difficult. Knight Cain was up to the task, and the dragon queen was destroyed. For 100 years no one could defeat the dragon queen, and only Cain managed to do it. A feast was organized in honor of this event. The queen personally approached the knight to raise a glass to his exploits. Before the campaign, Cain promised that he would drink with the queen if he won. The queen remembers her promise, and once the guy has a drink with her, his dreams will come true. Cain drinks a glass of wine to the bottom, and in that very second, he feels uncomfortable. Instead of what was promised, the queen poisoned Cain. Guards surround the knight, and he is suspected of inciting the soldiers and attempting to raise a rebellion. Loyal associates tried to stop this madness, but their attempts were quickly foiled. Cain's guilt has been decided. Anyone who defends him will be killed. The knight couldn't even move to resist in any way. His loyal companions could do nothing as they were outnumbered. The commander of the guards was as pleased as anyone with this turn of events. That's where it all started. Cain was engulfed in flames. He laughed in response to accusations of conspiracy and rebellion. The crowd of people, as usual, swallowed the phony accusation as valid. Burning alive, Cain promised to destroy the whole damn world. Eventually, the fire did its job. After a while, only snow and ashes remained in the square. At this point, an unidentified woman approached the cooled fire. She summoned magic power. Cain's suffering is about to end. The age of magic is coming. She will once again give the rights of choice to the fallen knight. Cain began to rise from the ashes. His first words were, "I will destroy this world." The woman was glad to hear that. Cain had risen from the dead, but his body was disfigured. 3 years have passed since then. The knight sits on the roof, bored. Isn't there going to be anything interesting here? Suddenly, the streets became noisy. Finally, it's fun time. Cain rushes to the epicenter of events. The palace guards are asking citizens to surrender their weapons. There's a little girl sitting not far from the weapons collection point. One of the knights asked the girl to give up an unregistered sword. The girl cried and asked not to take the gift from her dead mother. The guard drew his sword and threatened the child. "This is an order from His Majesty." The girl refused to give up her sword, and the guard swung at the child. The guard struck a blow, but the sword flew out of his hands. He looked up to see who had done it. Cain was sitting on the roof, taunting the palace guards in every way possible. The people saw their savior. This time his name was no longer Cain. The crowd called him Shiro. The head guard ordered the debauchee to be caught. The guards rushed to the attack. In the same instant, Shiro scattered them all. Only the leader of the palace guards remained. Shiro grabbed the guards. He wouldn't let them take away their weapons in search of magical fragments. The guard pulled out the dagger hidden in the cuffs, but it doesn't help him, and he gets a 2-point shot. Shiro advises not to get cocky and to leave while you can. The guards have abandoned their belongings and are fleeing. The little girl thanks Shiro for his help. But he doesn't need thanks. He's no longer a good guy like he used to be, just an honest thief. Shiro addressed the crowd and asked them to take whatever the guards left behind. People cheered and chanted his name. At this time, the chief officer of the palace guards was in a rage. Moonlight illuminates the tower. The masked knight languishes in boredom. Someone addresses the noble thief appearing out of nowhere. She asks with a chuckle if he misses her. The knight indifferently replies that he doesn't care about respect. What matters is fun. The girl watches him thoughtfully, perplexed as to why the strongest knight would come so close to the commoners. The dagger stabs into the roof, making a distinctive sound. Shiro feels the priestess taunting him. The dark-haired woman denies mocking the former king of knights. He was executed for treason and lost everything. Looking up at the huge moon, the knight curses his fate. The woman comforts him, because as long as he's alive, there's a chance to change things. The rescued knight wonders about his rescuer's motives. The enigmatic Messias answers evasively, enjoying the other's struggles. The knight resigns himself to his fate by accepting the help of the Messiah, who promises to be there for him no matter what happens. The action moves to Castle Lind, the residence of Count Ein. The subordinate reported the failure to the Lord, making excuses for the strength of the enemy. The angry Lord reprimanded him for his uselessness. A humiliated subordinate begs for forgiveness. The woman next to the Lord grinned gloatingly. The Overlord rebuked James for his constant failures. James begs for one last chance, promising to catch Shiro. The angry Overlord refused, eventually becoming frustrated. The Lord summoned 2 warriors to his side. The warriors approached and bowed their heads, ready to carry out the order. Capture Shiro at any cost. The demoted captain will now be an ordinary private soldier. He agrees because life is more valuable than pay. A bird's-eye view of the city? From the heights, Shiro observes the crowds and the oppression of the common people. Trouble is just around the corner. The shards of the blade will reunite. The priestess read a line from the prophecy. The thief hummed, hiding his true motives, the dark-haired girl approving of Shiro's cynicism. The city is once again in turmoil. The knight and the girl notice suspicious activity. He resents the guard's insistence. The priestess has noticed a change in their behavior. Knight rushes into battle without recognizing the exact reasons. The red-haired knight lands a powerful blow. The residents of the city watch the destruction with horror. The soldiers demand the townspeople to hand over their valuables. The old man is terrified and begs for mercy and calls for Shiro's help. The guard steps on the poor old man's face. A former officer contemplates his impending fate. The townspeople greet the approaching knight. When the man saw him, he was hit in the jaw. The guard flew back a decent distance. Shiro was ready to face the city guards. He didn't expect them to return so soon, though. Shiro accepted the challenge of the new guards, promising to be a nightmare. The enraged knight attacks with his strongest move. Shiro stops the blow with just his index finger. The enraged opponent is shaken by the failure. At that moment, hands come out from under the ground and grab Shiro's legs. The red-haired man gives the order to capture the knight. The soldiers strive to carry out the order. Shiro, without panicking, raises his index finger, which begins to glow with a bright pink glow. The guard doesn't realize what's even going on. A powerful blow rains down on the enemies, and Shiro only touched the ground with his finger. Not only was he able to copy the attacker's technique, but he was also able to amplify it. The knight in armor flies backwards with tremendous force, almost breaking through the building. Shiro walked over to his opponent and lifted him up by his hair. The boy demanded answers to what was happening, pressing the guard's head into the wall. But he refuses to speak, for he is loyal to his master. Shiro decided to remove his mask. He announced his demonic nature, scaring the captive. The knight let his scars be seen and demanded an honest answer. Otherwise, Shiro promises to destroy his entire family and won't even spare his children. The captive in horror agreed to everything. He gave the name of his employer. The troublemaker told him that his master was interested in the magical artifact Shiro was carrying. The customer wants a magical dagger that emits pink flames. That's all the red-haired guard knows. Shiro let him go with a final warning. The frightened captive hurried away. His men hurriedly left the streets of the city. The knight was left alone, pondering the fact that peace would not long reign in this city. There were whispers of a mysterious avenger outside the walls of Castle Lind. Gossip about the righteous thief stirred up the citizens of the city, and his daring methods shocked them. There were even tales of the Count's public humiliation. A mysterious cloaked stranger lurked among the crowd. He pulled back his hood, exposing his red hair. With a sly smile, she whispered a promise to Shiro's brother. Her green eyes burned with determination. A knight in a red cloak walks through the square, drawing attention to himself. Shiro begins to realize that the Count is his new target. Someone calls out the knight by name. Shiro turns to look. The girl rushes joyfully toward him. An unexpected jolt rolls the knight to the ground. The stranger embraces the knight, marveling at his tenderness. The enraged knight demands an explanation. The girl introduces herself as Carol. She states her desire to help. The knight coldly rejects her help. Carol wonders if he is driving her away. The distraught girl reminds him of her long journey and her cuteness. The knight roughly pushes the annoying girl away. He mutters irritably about the strange encounter. Again the girl attacks, screaming righteous thievery. Those around her are shocked by her statement. Knight asks to step away from the busy streets and speak to her alone. The girl is outraged and demands to be taken on her next assignment. Shiro angrily interjects what the girl wants. The girl suggests using a stinking potion. The knight is amazed at the girl's madness and reminds her of the seriousness of the punishment for the mission ahead. The girl talks about the terrible effects of the potion. Shiro is interested in the proposal. He agrees and takes the girl with him. The knight promises to teach her how to have fun. The girl was surprised at the unexpected turn. Carol shrieked with joy, and now the two of them were discussing the unexpected plan for the raid. Meanwhile, at the manor, the guards tell of the mishap. The alarming news threw the Count into despair. The man was tearing his hair in rage. His fear of Lord Cain was obvious. The angry lord blamed his subordinates for the failure. The guards listened in horror to the angry tirade, but there was more bad news. A defiant girl had burst into the house, wreaking havoc. The lord was enraged by the uninvited guest's appearance. A girl insidiously attacked the guards with an unknown substance. The knights fell victim to the unusual attack. One of the knights reported it to the Count. The bearded man growled, outraged at someone else's insolence. A red cloak flashed in the air, looming over the enemy. Upon landing, the warrior in armor asked who was in front of him. Looking at the Count, Shiro greeted him roughly. The bearded man gripped his blade. The Count had not expected to encounter the thief again. Shiro rushed toward the Count. The knight grabbed his enemy by the throat. The bearded man roared in pain. A knight in a red cloak pins the Count against the wall. The bearded man smiles slyly and suggests we just talk. The Count waves to his soldiers to help him overpower the knight. The guards in armor begin to move closer. Shiro looks disdainfully at the guards and beckons Carol to help. The girl entered the hall, swinging the doors open with her foot. The appearance of the young lady excited everyone. Carol throws a vial of an unknown substance at the guards. Something disgusting splattered sideways. The guards recoiled in horror. The smell was unbearable. One of the knights couldn't stand it. He vomited nausea. The knight unleashed his might upon his opponent. The girl knight kicked the defeated enemy with her foot. The interrogation began. Shiro began to ask about the so-called Mako tool. The Count was trying to figure out how serious the boy's motives were. At that moment, the blade stabbed into the Count's arm. The man screamed in pain as he realized that Shiro was no joke. So either the man tells everything he knows or Shiro will break his bones. The Count screams in pain and agrees to tell everything he knows. Knight senses an approaching threat. The unknown man threw something towards the knight. Shiro doesn't manage to repel the attack. The projectile flies between his fingers. A needle jabs at the Count's body. The fat man screamed, squirming in pain. Shiro screwed up. He couldn't prevent the attack. The knight in the red cloak tries to catch up with his attacker. Annoyed, he realizes that the target has successfully escaped. Carol looked over at the Count. The dead man lay on the floor and the girl gloated. The blue-haired knight looked coldly at the defeated man. The Count's face contorted in a grimace of horror. The needle's venom killed him quickly enough, though it looked like it hurt like hell. Confident in his poison, John Doe reported success. The irritated man ordered faster action. One shard is already in Shiro's possession. The old man grinned evilly, sensing the challenge. It was worth inviting this guy to his house. You need to kill Shiro and collect the fragments that will unleash Mako's divine power. You will become the world's strongest god, and I will put an end to it. The Count is dead. The looting has begun. The raiders greedily grabbed the treasure, fighting over the loot with cries of mine. There were 2 men watching them from the roof. Is Shiro satisfied with the given sight? Does he feel better? The fall of the villain lifted his spirits. Carol admires her brother's strength. Trinity celebrates victory on the rooftop. Knight promises new entertainment. The woman warns of the consequences. A loyal knight does not fear his enemies. He considers them nothing. The girl is excited for the upcoming battle. The priestess only grins slightly, anticipating another reprisal. Newspaper reporters deliver an emergency bulletin. The townspeople praise Shiro. Carol informs Shiro of the praise. Shiro is surprised by the unexpected fame. The knight reads an invitation from Cain. Lord Cain invites them to dinner. The knight suspected a trap, but agreed. They will handle any upcoming event. Anticipating the fun, Knight promises even more entertainment. Meanwhile, the heavy door swung open with a clatter. You can see the light from the torch below. A man looks at the girl in the flask. He calls her Aisha. Aisha, immersed in a dream she has been in for over 4 years. The 2 men discuss Lord Cain's invitation and question whether Shiro will come to the call. Cain knew pride would make him show up, even knowing it was a trap. The confident warrior waited for a new story. A warning of the enemy's strength sounded in the darkness. The white-haired giant dismissively responded to this warning. Cain summoned the power of the beast. The power of the cursed lion. Fierce flames broke free. A beast appeared in chains, shrouded in magic. The witness was horrified when he saw the might of the lion. The villain created an experimental weapon out of shards. The ferocious fire lion roared, displaying its might. The unknown figure looked on in horror at the spirit power. By collecting all the shards, he would be able to destroy the world. The 2 conspirators were anticipating the fulfillment of a dream, but the joy was marred by someone else's absence. The memory of her pierced his heart. The villain's face contorted into a sinister grin. Someone is no longer with them. Shiro arrived at the castle. People look at him and whisper. The crowd parts before the guest. Lord Cain greets Shiro. Cain remembers all the merits of the glorious knight. Shiro is honored by the Lord's attention. The knight assured that everyone's contribution to the building of the castle would be remembered. The leader invited everyone to build a better future together. The guests gladly accepted the invitation to the party. The servants announced that the treats were ready. Mountains of roast pork waited in the hall. The host suggested that they not be shy and eat as much as they wanted. The knight refused the treat, much to the bewilderment of his companion. The girl happily offered to eat the treat herself. The formidable warrior stared suspiciously at the knight. Shiro accused the warriors of deception. The warriors were stunned by the knight's words. Cain inquired as to the true purpose of the visit. The needle pierced the air, aiming to strike the seated man. Carol fought off the attack by defending her brother. A white-haired, masked young man was watching. A gray-haired warrior taunts his opponent and orders his warriors to kill the insolent man. The knights attack, but Shiro is unfazed. He dismissively calls them tools. A powerful punch shakes the hall. Cain blocks a jab from Shiro. Knight smirks, anticipating the fight. Shiro unleashes dark energy. An enraged Cain asks his counselor for help. The magician summons the slumbering beast. A monstrous roar echoed through the palace. The knight scrutinizes the summoned creature. Cain tells Shiro to give up since he's not going to make it. The old man with a blazing gaze ordered the lion to attack the guest. The fire lion broke free with a furious roar, and the flames engulfed everything around it. Shiro grinned. "You're too soft." The monster was blazing with destructive pink energy. The knight dodged the attack and continued to taunt the beast. The monster roared and directed a stream of energy at the guy. Shiro flew away, destroying everything in his path. The crowd cheers. Cain is invincible. Winner taunts the defeated Shiro. Suddenly, a mighty figure rises from the dust, scattering chunks of rocks piled against his body. The old man looks on in horror at what is happening. He marvels at the power of the awakened being. The sinister look in his eyes foreshadowed something terrible. Cain orders the destruction of the enemy. The beast eagerly begins to growl even harder. Shiro grinned contemptuously. He abruptly adopted a fighting stance when he saw the lion approaching. Shiro rushes to meet the lion and delivers a crushing blow. The lion flies behind his master's back. A mocking voice predicts defeat for the knight. Overcoming the pain, the warrior gritted his teeth and summoned the power of the ghostly chains. A vortex of dark energy engulfed everything around it. The knight, surrounded by sinister spirits, is trapped. He is predicted to die a quick death from exhaustion, but Shiro only grinned without losing his composure. Suddenly there was a powerful fiery explosion. The dark energy receded. The knight could move again. Cain was shocked at the young knight's given abilities. Shiro shortened the distance between him and his opponent as quickly as possible. Knight lands a glancing blow to Cain's jaw. A powerful explosion throws the enemy back. Cain doesn't understand how the knight got such powers. Shiro is also a summoned spirit to some extent. I guess it's time to call it a night. Shiro rushes back on the attack. Cain orders the lion to protect his master at all costs. The pink lion blocked the path to Cain. The lion set himself up to distract the knight. When the spirit of the lion fell, Shiro didn't look toward Cain, but he was no longer there. He heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, Shiro saw Cain running away with all his legs. At this moment, the lion rose to its paws again. A magic vortex burst out from its mouth. The knight was able to disrupt the flow of energy with a single fist. The attack spread through the hall. The knight decided to deal with his opponent. Cain had already run out of the castle and headed for the streets. At this time, Shiro landed a crushing blow. From such a blow, the lion is unlikely to wake up quickly. At this time, those around him recognize the fleeing knight as Lord Cain and are surprised by his panic. In desperation, Cain orders his men to apprehend the enemy. Cain attacks with chains with ghostly skulls. The trapped people are terrified, trying to free themselves. The townspeople scream in agony. Shiro had already caught up with his opponent. He tried to help the poor villagers trapped by Cain. The knight looked at the townspeople. They were begging for help, terrified to realize they were dying. Grinning maliciously, the enemy challenged Shiro's senses. But he knew what Cain was trying to do. He was just trying to buy time. But Shiro didn't give in to the provocation, because he had come back from hell, and such tricks wouldn't get him. Disregarding the lives of civilians, the warrior attacks. Cain is stunned by the insolence of the enemy. Blades crossed in a fierce battle. Cain's sword broke from the powerful blow. The knight attacks furiously, knocking the opponent back. Cain broke through the wall with himself. Fury contorted the old warrior's face. Shiro announced the end of the game. Suddenly, the same mysterious needle-wielding assassin appeared above his head. The guy turned around to look at the pathetic attempts to pierce his body with poisonous needles. With a wave of his hand, Shiro redirected his opponent's attack. A villainous laugh rang out. Dark magic enveloped the knight in purple chains. Terrified, he tried to free himself from his shackles. Lord Cain, meanwhile, was trying to escape again. The heavy doors of Castle Cain's dungeon swung open. Cain returned to his beloved. He looked at Aisha, captive in her green cocoon. Tormented by doubts, he asked himself what he should do. Suddenly, a magic circle formed beneath the Lord. Violet magic flared up, enveloping him. He decided to end it all. Purple energy destroys Aisha's flask. The knight promises to fulfill her dream. Shrapnel stabbed into Lord Cain's back. A dark force envelops the knight. He embraces the girl with pink hair. Shiro tries to free himself from the purple chains. With a sudden movement, he tore the magical barrier. Shiro tries to figure out how the unknown was able to dissolve, leaving only chains in its place. Suddenly, the whole earth began to shake violently. Panic gripped the city. Buildings collapsed like houses of cards. The girl covered her head with her hands in horror, one of the buildings serving on her. Shiro batted away the looming threat with his hand. The knight watched the destruction. He knew it was Cain's doing. Cain's squad of guards hurried into the dungeon, sensing some strange energy. They remembered Cain's mysterious power. The warriors rushed towards Lord Cain, worried that Shiro might hurt the Lord. At the entrance, the same hooded man was waiting for them. The warriors discussed Shiro's power and the mysterious energy emanating from the basement. The hooded man slipped up, saying that Lord Cain had decided to retreat, recognizing Shiro's power, and before he left, he decided to share the wealth. The warriors rejoiced at Lord Cain's generosity and cheered, praising their leader. The knights entered a closed room to meet with Cain. A sudden gust of wind filled the hallway. The entire group was defeated by strange tentacles. Ominous energy enveloped the knights and they screamed in pain. A horrible monster appeared out of the darkness. It was as if the warriors' life forces had been drained from their bodies. The knights flew backwards from the powerful blow. The monster smashed its way through the dungeon ceiling. The monster has taken to the city streets. The monster let out a terrifying howl. The mysterious counselor was watching what was happening. He flew out after the monster. With contempt, he called people fools. The monster attacked the villagers, and the people scattered in terror. The creature grabbed its victims, sucking the life force out of them. Shiro approached the monster. He shredded the tentacles with a powerful blow. The stunned villagers fell to the ground. The monstrous creature horrified Messias. She explained that it is a defective magical warrior. He absorbs power to compensate for his deficiencies. Shiro thought it was Cain's pet at first. The hooded girl objected. It was Cain himself. It resonated with the shard of a blade of violet flame. Has Cain fallen so low? The monster attacks the young man. A knight with white hair prepares for battle. The monster abruptly changes his plans. The monster simply turns around and walks off in the other direction. Shiro and his priestess are mildly perplexed. In a flash of rage, Shiro tries to stop the monster. The knight unleashed a crushing blow on the monster. The attack catches up with the monster, cutting off a certain number of its tentacles. Shiro catches up. He swings in for another strike. A stream of energy burst out from the monster's mouth. The knight groaned in pain and was thrown backwards. Shiro doesn't give up. He needs to defeat Cain at all costs. The monster rushed back towards the castle. Knight is trying to catch up with Cain. Meanwhile at the castle, the giant pink lion is still lying unconscious. Carol notices a flash of pink energy. The monster knocks the girl off the lion's body. She took a direct hit and was thrown back into the castle wall. Cain runs up to the lion carcass. With his tentacles, he slams into the lion's body. He needs 2 more lives to free himself. The beast grabbed the lion's heart. Cain furiously demands that his body be released. The kidnapper mockingly rejects this demand. The captive desperately clings to his freedom. The monster growls, demanding the body to obey. Cain tries to resist, but his strength is running out. Shiro caught up with the monster. The guy attacks again with his sword, cutting off the monster's limbs. A knight with an icy stare wishes death upon his enemy. The monster recognizes the warrior's strength, but scoffs. Game time is up, the monster announces. Dark energy clutches the lion's heart. The monster bursts free, enveloped in purple energy. Shiro stared stunned at what was happening. A tremendous explosion shakes the ground. Debris flew in all directions, and a horrifying laughter could be heard from the dust clouds. Something embittered laughed gloatingly, enjoying the chaos. He felt the intoxicating power dominating the world again, the fire monster unleashing its fury. The fire monster towered over the knight. The knight is horrified, trying to figure out what's going on. The flames engulfed everything around it, the monster announcing its return. Shiro realized that it wasn't Cain anymore. The fire golem angrily demanded the name of the imposter. The fire monster foreshadowed the imminent doom of the enemy. The fire monster summoned a demonic technique. A powerful explosion shook the ground. The 9-headed monster emerged from the flames. The 9-headed dragon awakened. The monster opened its huge maw, preparing to attack. Its scales glistened, radiating a menacing energy. Shiro jumped up high to assess the situation from up high. The multi-headed dragon surrounded him, snapping its teeth. With a furious shout, the warrior swung his sword charged with magic. A mighty blow crushed the air, heading for the enemy. The dragons roared, preparing to attack. A powerful explosion was formed when the attack wave and the dragon heads collided. From the shockwave, Shiro was also thrown back. No sooner had the guy landed than a fire golem approached him. He attacked the guy with tremendous force. Shiro was sealed into the ground with tremendous speed. The impression was that the attack had little effect on the guy. The fire monster approaches the guy again. Shiro summoned a protective barrier, reflecting the furious onslaught. The fire golem advanced, dealing another blow to the enemy. The knight's shield cracked, and the guy was thrown aside. Shiro slammed into the wall. The knight clenched his teeth angrily. Suddenly, the priestess appeared. She was concerned and assessed the knight's condition. Shiro sighs heavily. He didn't fully appreciate the power of the golem. A fire monster mocking the wretched humans. The sorceress defied brute force. She's going to try to carry out her plan. The golem turned his attention to the priestess. He noticed an ominous magical symbol. Cain entangled in red strings like a puppet, imprisoned by his own mind. The price for power was to become a puppet, forgotten by all. He growled, not wanting that fate. Cain tries to remember why he has come all this way. A memory flashed in the warrior's eyes, a girl dreaming of a strong husband and marriage. He vows to protect her from all dangers. The devoted knight protects the girl from brigands. After a time, he became a hero, standing at the top of the empire next to his beloved. In a flash of rage, he remembers the betrayal. He remembers the promise he once made. The goal is the top of the empire at any cost. Cain vowed to crush everyone in his path. The shackles holding him back have loosened. The image of Cain appeared in the golem's eyes. Cain is trying to fight back and regain control of his body. A loyal knight must reclaim his former name. The fire monster fights back. The knight orders the monster to leave his body. Shiro and the priestess observe the internal confrontation. The knight banishes the creature from his body, but the monster won't give up. The fire golem is ready to unleash its wrath on anyone who gets in its way. The knight, engulfed in flames, desperately resists. The dark-haired girl wants to help stop the fight. The priestess suggested that the knight use the power of the artifact. He's willing to risk everything to win. Trying to fumble for the hilt of the dagger, Shiro feels nothing. The guy realizes the artifact is gone. The blade was lost among the rubble of buildings. Meanwhile, Cain tries to exorcise the fire monster. It was obvious that the Lord was having trouble dealing with him. A fire monster oppressing Lord Cain. "The game is over," came an ominous voice. It was time to get down to the real business. Engulfed in fire, the knight was horrified to realize that the end was near. The explosion shook the city walls. The monster is once again in full control of the body. He has managed to suppress the inner rebellion. Shiro frantically searched for the missing man. A menacing voice rumbled out another threat. An ancient evil is awakening from a 1,000-year slumber. Shiro urgently needs to do something about it. Guy uses the protective barrier again, blocking the fire golem's attack. The fire giant scoffs at the weakness of man. Shiro gets to his feet. The guy repeats again that he is no longer human. The guy was human 3 years ago until he was betrayed. The fire monster raised an eyebrow in surprise. The giant had not expected such a response. Shiro has called himself a wandering soul since his awakening. The warrior's glittering eyes blazed with fierce energy. A shadowy curtain descended on the enemy. The fire monster didn't realize what was happening. The knight attacks the fire giant. Golem turns sharply toward the knight to block the blow. Knight lands a crushing blow. The enemy is stunned by the variety of techniques. The fire golem throws the annoying guy off. Shiro realizes that a prolonged fight is undesirable and needs to end things as quickly as possible. The knight runs in a rage through the ruined streets in search of the artifact. Shiro sees his dagger glinting in the distance. The artifact is a long distance away from the guy. The knight was pleased to notice the shard. Golem looks around for the annoying knight. The giant spotted something in the distance. The monster saw the fragment and the guy who went after it. This is exactly what the monster needs to unleash its incredible power. The fire monster will not allow the last fragment to be stolen. The knight is already a step away from the blade. Suddenly, the guy noticed the fire golem also began to rapidly approach the artifact. A sharp flash of light illuminated the guy's face. The monster pushed the guy away. The knight is thrown back by the blast. He falls down, gritting his teeth in rage. The last shard that the villain exalted. The fire monster can finally show its true power. There was a huge explosion, and the golem disappeared. The situation is escalating. The villain has found true power and craves power over the world. A hero challenges a powerful enemy. The scene shifts to the dungeon of Lord Castle. The priestess speaks of destiny. Everything in this world has a beginning and an end. The priestess uses the spell near the destroyed flask. Cain senses someone else's interference. With a furious shout, he let out a purple flame. The mighty knight did not back down. The demon triumphed, taunting the humans as suddenly his hand changed color. Shiro fiercely resisted, unwilling to give up. The knight tries again and again to overpower the fire golem. The monster threatens a quick death once fully synchronized with the new artifact. At this point, Cain regained consciousness and began to resist the monster. The fire monster began beating himself up. The knight recognized the monster as Cain. Cain attacked with renewed vigor, the loyal knight vowing revenge for the attempted body snatching. The weakened monster opened a gap in the defense. Shiro saw his chance to win. At that moment, he remembered the conversation. The knight listens to the princess in silence. She asks if he is ready for service. The princess's piercing gaze is full of guile. Knight stated emphatically that he was willing to do anything for his ideals. He stepped forward confidently, never wavering from his goal. Shiro refuses to break his oath and once again throws himself into battle against the monster, but not for the princess. The hardest blow is bearing down on the enemy. The city shakes with the force of the impact. Buildings collapse, raising clouds of dust. The fire monster blocked the attack. But unfortunately for him, he dropped the fragment. Shiro was able to knock the fragment out before it fully synchronized with the monster. The enraged monster was unable to protect the artifact. The monster's gaze saw danger approaching. Another blow to the monster's face. A tormented Cain demands to expel the demon from his body. Shiro coughs up blood, his strength leaving him. Betrayed, he fights with his last strength. The thought of Natsu flashed through his mind. The knight is determined and swears to himself, "I won't lose this time." Shiro summoned the power of the violet flame. A purple ray surged into the sky. A purple glow fills the guy. The fire monster realizes his business is bad. Shiro is now filled with energy from the relic. The mysterious counselor is still watching. His plan failed. The priestess noticed the pillar of purple energy as well. She was glad that Shiro was able to awaken the power of the artifact. The knight is filled with monstrous power. The transformation is almost complete. Synchronization was successful. Shiro has been transformed beyond recognition. It's over. came an icy voice. The face with the burned cheek was contorted with grim determination. During this time, Cain continues to fight for control of his body. The Lord groaned in pain. It was becoming increasingly difficult to contain the monster's blazing rage, and the warrior realized that the heart was its vulnerable spot. "I'm counting on you," came a desperate voice. "I won't let you down." A gleaming blade sliced through the air. "You pathetic creature, you're in my way," the monster growled. The monster wields 6 shards while the guy only has 1. Does he really hope to win this fight? Shiro accepts the challenge. The knight recalls past battles in which he has won victories. Shiro rushed into the attack. A demonic strike descends on the enemy. Violet energy splitting space. The fire demon concentrates energy. The fire tornado is directed towards the knight. There was a collision of blows. Huge explosions rang out in the streets of the city. Is that really all a fire monster can do? A knight with a purple blade attacks a fire monster. The monster warns that the guy will be consumed by magic and won't be able to control it. Shiro is unwilling to listen to warnings. He remembers his poor childhood. Small, he was weak and defenseless. But now things are different. The knight rushes forward, unwilling to give up. A blob of dark energy bursts out from his hand. Its speed increases dramatically, stunning the enemy. A fiery aura envelops the golem, protecting it. The knight let out his might with hatred. A powerful jab staggers his opponent. The fire demon can feel the knight's power with every part of his body. The monster flew away, and Shiro was left standing still in a final attacking pose. The queen knights the young man. He accepts her blessing with bowed head. Once powerful, he destroys the world, but not in the way he imagined. The sky was covered with storm clouds. A scarlet rose bloomed in the pouring rain. The fire monster collapsed onto the wet paving stones, the flames around it fluttering and pulsing. Magical energy concentrated in a purple crystal. Lord Cain was returning to consciousness. The defeated opponent lay in the rain. The knight walked over and kicked the lying man. "Don't pretend." Shiro looked at Cain. "Look what you've done," Shiro said bitterly. The ruined city was smoking under a gray sky. "I never lost to you," growled the defeated man. "This battle only started because of you," the knight parried. Exhausted, he could barely stand up. Shiro was outraged at the deception from Lord Cain. Through the pain, he remembered the false promises. The knight was torn between death and revenge. Gloating laughter heralds more trouble. In the rain, the priestess brings him comfort. In the stranger's arms, the knight saw his beloved. Words of gratitude came from Lord Cain. The dark-haired girl hinted at the beginning of a new life. The knight decided to stay with the girl till the end. He hugged Aisha gently. Saddened, he whispered her name. In the rain and the ruins, his death was announced. Priestess and Shiro discuss a defeated enemy, a victim of fate. They blame him for what happened. He was a victim of his own greed, which power gave him. Shiro walked over and picked up a shard of the artifact. Fortunately, he was stopped in time. This purple flame blade is a powerful magical weapon capable of destroying a city with a single swing. Suddenly, a strange noise was heard, and in the same second, blood-red energy rushed forward. Shiro dodged, stunned by the force of the attack. A mysterious stranger in a cloak with burning eyes appeared. The dark-haired girl tried to pick up the blade, but the hooded man knocked the girl to the ground and grabbed the artifact first. The mysterious magician has gotten his hands on the coveted. The enraged knight is trying to reclaim his. A magical strike lands on the opponent, but he blocked it with his magical chains. A dark figure taunts the weakened knight. Mage pushes Shiro away from him. The warrior's face blazed with rage. He was determined. Shiro shouted and unleashed a strong magical strike on the enemy. A powerful blow that contained the power of a demon king shook the air. The pink chains burst under the pressure of the blade. The enemy watched in horror. The mage barely had time to dodge the attack. With a chuckle, he recalled the former greatness of his enemy. The king of knights' strength waned, and he stared doomedly at his opponent. The exhausted knight realized his powerlessness. The dark mage, eager for the game to continue, hurriedly ended the fight. "So this is where it starts?" The woman spoke Lavis's name angrily. An ominous voice sounded from beneath the hood. He remembered the betrayal, the foreshadowing of retribution. Lavis is doomed to defeat at the hands of a man he despises. Gloating, the mage foresees the knight's demise. The dark mage goes through the portal and disappears, leaving the two of them on a broken street. God's impending awakening is a threat to humans. Shiro slams his fist on the ground. There was nothing he could do. He's too weak. He needs time to recover. The battle over, Shiro wonders if the priestess knows this mage. In fact, they've already known each other for a great deal of time. Shiro boiled in anger. The priestess should have warned the guy beforehand to prepare and not miss the artifact. The guy needs to cool down as he's barely on his feet, even though he's only fought one magical warrior. Shiro was about to object, but at that moment a familiar voice was heard. Carol ran as fast as she could toward her brother. The boy asked to report any information the priestess had in her possession. Mrs. Mesius didn't expect the magician to return so soon either, and underestimated the situation. Carol was very frightened after her fight with the lion. She ran up to Shiro and asked him to comfort her. Shiro hugged the girl and said that as long as he was with her, he wouldn't let anyone hurt her. Turning to the priestess again, he demanded that today he tell her everything she knew. Messias agreed. Carol starts to get hysterical. She wants to spend the whole day with Shiro. The guy would love to spend time with the girl as soon as he regains his strength. Meanwhile, a little girl crawled out from under the rubble. Upon seeing Shiro, the child began shouting out the name of their savior. People all like them chanted the hero's name again. The crowd came closer and closer. Carol and Shiro were the center of attention. But this time was different. After a while in Cain's castle, Shiro and Mrs. Messias are in the very basement of the castle where it all began. This was where Cain synchronized with the fragment of the magical artifact. It was all fate's destiny, and no one can escape the curse of fate. Shiro didn't come here for idle chatter. He wants specifics. Messias held out her hand to the boy and offered to look into the story together. Shiro was skeptical of the proposal. The knight trusted the priestess until she started hiding something from him. She's already saved the guy once, so he's going to try to give her another chance. They shook hands, and the priestess promised to tell what she knew. Absolutely everything. Suddenly, Shiro found himself in an unfamiliar place. His projection hovered in the air above the scenic spots. He wondered where he was. The priestess appeared beside him. She transported them back 5,000 years, when civilization had not yet existed and the gods used humans as slaves. People are panicking trying to get away from someone. A huge shadow is approaching. A heavy blow fell upon the unfortunate people. A clawed hand of gigantic proportions rises sharply upward. The huge, red-headed god brags about the punch he used to put down many innocents. His blue friend, finding it too boring a game. He likes to clench them in his fist better. In his opinion, it's much more fun. In this old era, before humans gained overwhelming power, humanity was no better than livestock. How then did the people of that time manage to defeat these giant creatures? They could not succeed. Only a god can overpower another god. What could it all mean? Men are too weak to stand against the gods. The only way is to exploit the contradictions within the gods themselves. Make the gods fight amongst themselves and capitalize on it. Only one man has been able to accomplish this. It was clear from the look in the man's eyes that he was up to something. He abruptly began shouting to Lord Cain that the information had been passed on as instructed. The man's name was Rakes. What kind of information did the common man have? It's all about gods strategizing to deceive each other. Rakes reports to Chegnos that the men sent to Highland Island have made inquiries. Lord Cain explores ways of sealing. Chegnos was very angry to hear such news. Who's he going to seal up? Once his sealing technique was fully learned, the battles would be useless. Therefore, they should attack first. Chegnos took the above into consideration and decided to eliminate Catran. He should pay with his life for such insolence. Rakes stared after the god as he walked away. As the god left, another man peeked out of the bushes nearby. We must inform the others that Chegnos has gone for Catran's head. Rakes is determined to end this. Rakes was originally a dragon hunter, but he had to adapt to the new realities. After a while, there was a rumbling sound. Chegnos grabbed Catran and knocked him to the ground. The blue god was shocked by the sudden attack. He didn't understand the root cause of the situation. Chegnos knew that Catran was learning the sealing technique, even though it is forbidden. For what purpose was he doing it? Catran tried to calm his attacker, saying it had nothing to do with him. Chegnos doesn't believe a word of it. Catran is clearly eager to destroy him. The red god swings in for a fatal blow. At this point, Catran shouts to Rakes, "It's time to act." The man was not far away and was watching the situation closely. As soon as he heard the order, Rakes jumped out of the water and began to summon the Highland Island sealing technique. A huge magical seal spread out on the surface of the water. Chegnos spotted Rakes. He was surprised to meet him here. As soon as Chegnos was distracted, Catran seized the moment. The blue god thrust his hand into Chegnos' body. It was all planned. Chegnos will pay for baring his fangs against Catran. The magical chains rushed towards their target. Would they really be able to seal a god? Chegnos himself came into the trap, and no one is going to let him go. The chains begin to tighten tighter around the red-headed god's neck, without giving him a chance to move. A moment and Chegnos vaporized, leaving behind only a magic sword. Catran is sure that Chegnos would never have thought such a day would come. Rakes wondered what Catran would do when the other gods got wind of his deeds. Catran swung his sword, releasing a huge wave. Reaching the mountains, the wave cut through them like butter. Rakes was surprised at the destructive power of this sword. With the sealing technique and the power that Chegnos left behind, no one will be able to deal with the blue god. Rakes swore allegiance to such a powerful god. For from now on, Catran is completely out of reach of anyone. It was the beginning of all things. Catran spread his wings by learning the technique of sealing the gods. Since then, even an ordinary person can activate the sealing formation if they enter it. Catran felt flawless. Obtaining the violet flame sword meant that, in essence, Catran had obtained a portion of Chegnos' power. But he did not expect that such an action would lead to the opening of Pandora's box. From then on, the gods doubted each other. They tried to keep the others in line, and they killed each other. That's when the gods began to take advantage of any opportunities. They even began to use the power of humans. They even started giving people some of their power to help them in battles. The number of gods being hunted grew, but the power of men was also growing day by day. Eventually, mankind gained power beyond that of the gods. It was only natural. Katran looks in horror at what he has nurtured with his hands. Rakes has been waiting for this day for a very long time. Rake's historical sin has brought an indelible future to humanity. After defeating Katran, Rakes himself became the god of the entire world. Mankind cheered. Rakes had appointed himself the new god, such was fate. The guy abruptly realized something. His projection began to fade. At this point, their history lesson came to an end. Rakes, shackled by the chains of fate, tried to do something to keep their story from becoming public. Now Shiro must realize what kind of enemy his opponent is. A good-for-nothing man who could mock even the gods. A man has come to the queen. He has information about a power that will interest her. He reported that this was a very interesting man, and he seemed to have his eye on the queen. After hearing that, the queen materialized magic daggers and sent them in the direction of the intruder. All the shells missed their target. The man didn't even move. He promised her that if she helped get rid of Klein, he would keep his promise. Even she can't stop the Barbaros family's anger. This is a very serious situation. Lavis calmed the queen down, saying it was only a joke. The queen gets nervous. At one opportune moment, she promises to kill the magician. Lavis says that's something to think about later, but right now they need to think about the present. He is confident that they can build a great cooperative relationship. Meanwhile, in the castle dungeon, Shiro is demanding more information. He needs to know the background of Lavis's life. The guy asks to be shown everything with the Ring of Destiny, but Messias only frowns at the guy. Shiro kept his promise and collected the artifacts, but how is he supposed to fight when he doesn't know who the real enemy is? The Ring of Fate says that now is not the time to tell Shiro about this. When the time comes, Shiro will realize it for himself. Knight is annoyed that Messias is always avoiding answers by using the Ring of Fate, but she's just a lonely soul, and the guy isn't worth going that far. What's another lonely soul? Shiro asked. After all, does that mean Shiro also exists in a similar way? After a while at Rindo Castle, Shiro is asleep in his bed, but it didn't last long. Carol bursts into the room. She screams at the top of her voice. She has big news for her big brother. What could be more important than restorative sleep? Mr. Shiro will soon become lord of the castle. The guy was shocked by this news. Many townspeople came to his chambers and began to bow to him. The people have decided that Rindo Castle will belong to Shiro from now on. They are willing to do so as a token of their gratitude for saving the city. Putting on the mask, Shiro refused such honors. The people were confused. They didn't understand why Lord Shiro was refusing. Wasn't this payment enough? Shiro took a deep breath and began to explain the situation from his point of view. It wasn't like he was saving the townspeople or anyone else. He was only doing it for his own sake. The guy expletive slapped the table next to him and asked everyone to leave his room. He's not some kind of savior. If they want someone like that, let them find another idiot. With these words, the guy began to move towards the exit, leaving the crowd of people in complete shock. He won't trust anyone else. It's never going to happen. A few minutes later, the boy was already standing outside the castle gates. Messias is surprised that Shiro is leaving the land so quickly because the villagers want him to stay. But what they really want is anyone they think will be a hero to them. Doesn't the guy have any attachments or something? Shiro doesn't understand what good can come from being attached to something. So, he asks Messias to shut up and follow him. Before she had gone 10 steps, the little girl shouted out her hero's name. Despite the rain, the girl managed to catch up with Shiro-san. She had heard that he was going on a hike and had prepared provisions for him. Nice and neat muffins. Shiro was clearly pleased with this concern. He gladly accepted the gift from the girl and thanked her. She will pray for Lord Shiro's safety. And he in turn promised to pray for her good fortune. On that good note, they said goodbye. This bread was a symbol of a good harvest. After a while outside Robbie's castle, it was a little chilly outside. Carol complains as she can't even start a fire on such a cold day. Shiro jumped down from the tree and headed towards the girl. He uses the knight's hellfire skill and helped with the kindling. Carol was impressed with Shiro's abilities. In an instant, he was able to warm them both up. Now they have enough time to listen to the girl's true reason. Shiro wants to know why she followed the boy after all. Carol has already said that she really likes Shiro. He's her idol. She wants to have fun with him. The guy doesn't believe her words and thinks she is evading the answer. The girl is ready to say anything, as long as the guy is satisfied with her answer. Shiro changed the topic of conversation and asked me to pass him the perfume. Carol handed Shiro a pouch of stench. I guess that's enough questions for today. Sooner or later, Shiro will find out Carol's real reason. The girl is excited. She thinks Shiro is the coolest and nicest guy ever. Looking up into the treetops, Shiro was curious to see what Messias was doing up there. The priestess uses the Ring of Destiny. She resorted to using fate so they could avoid the coming problems. At that very second, the girl's eyes lit up with a golden glow. She found herself in an unknown space. Suddenly, she heard a plea for help. The priestess tried to figure out who in a place like this could ask to save him. Abruptly, a certain angel appeared. He was angry at the uninvited guests who dared to grasp at fate. He stretched out his hand toward Messias. The priestess was at a loss to see the huge hand rapidly approaching her. Suddenly, the priestess snapped off the top of the tree and fell towards the ground. Shiro noticed this and immediately ran to help. He jumped up and managed to grab Messias before she would have fallen to the ground. Shiro inquired as to what had happened. Apparently, Messias abused the Ring of Destiny. It looks like she awakened the slumbering god of fate and was consumed by him. Shiro asked, no longer looking at fate instead of him. Now he waits. If he doesn't like the future he sees, he will destroy it all with his own hands. Shiro always acts strongly tough no matter what the situation is. The next morning, Carol awakened from her sleep. Shiro was already awake and had prepared breakfast for the girl. They're going to Robbie tonight, and Shiro asks Carol if she wants to put on a fun intro. This is going to be something super exciting. Shiro intends to turn Robbie's castle upside down. Meanwhile, inside the castle, the guards are searching for Lady Nicole, but to their dismay, their attempts are unsuccessful. The girl in gold armor reports that they can find no trace of Lady Nicole's escape in this castle. The man in the closed helmet was very unhappy. He doesn't want to hear excuses, and will order anyone who disobeys orders to be killed. Suddenly, it was as if the castle gate had been blown open. Shiro and Carol, armed with the stench, burst into the palace grounds. But most interestingly, they asked to welcome the new owners of Robbie Castle. And of course, how could it not be gifts? Shiro throws the first flask. Crashing to the ground, a strong stench began to spread throughout the area. It may stink, but it's made with heart. The effect is unbelievable. Men get strength and girls get beauty, so inhale deeply. Carol praises this fragrance too, as it is the most natural of all. People are terrified, they can't breathe. It was a despicable act to throw something like that in broad daylight. The man can't figure out what's wrong with these two. The girl asks for permission to deal with the matter herself. A man promises not to kill a female knight if she destroys the bandits who have desecrated the lands of Robbie Castle. Shiro notices a knight approaching. Looks like they caught their first catch of the day. The red-haired girl doesn't know who they are, but she won't let them do whatever they want in Robbie's castle. Shiro is looking forward to evaluating his opponent's skills. The boy dodges the attack and steals a wallet from the knight's belt. The girl notices the missing. How dare he touch her blood money? Shiro was surprised to find only one silver coin. It was her paycheck for a month's service, and she's demanding it back. The guy tossed the coin towards the red-haired girl. That's a pretty small sum to steal. The knight was at a loss. Was it really not enough? Unlike the girl, it looks like that guy over there has a lot more. Shiro rushes towards the oldest. He wants to borrow something from him. The man noticed the guy approaching and quickly got into a fighting stance. It's not going to happen today, he said. The man summoned a huge spirit for help. Shiro is impressed with this guy's ability. A huge warrior attacks Shiro, but the attack was too slow and Shiro dodged it with ease. The man in the helmet sees the knight approaching him, but there is no time left for maneuver. Shiro lunges in with a crushing blow to his opponent. The man's barely on his feet and needs help now. Shiro hopes that now the man in the helmet will not resist and will lend him some amount of money. Suddenly, the rope rushed toward Shiro. The rope wrapped around the knight's leg. The red-haired girl restrains the guy to give her boss time. The girl doesn't know who they are, but she won't let them do whatever they want. Shiro noticed that there were more interesting people here than at Lord Castle. From what he said, the girl realized it was Shiro. She doesn't know what happened at Lord Castle, but it won't work here. The guy asked not to be angry at what was happening, as he was just having a little fun. While Shiro was distracted, the man got his chance. He fired his signal gun and a red light illuminated the city. Shiro heard the explosion. Was there really going to be backup now? Carol was the first to fall for the backup group. She asked to follow the squad in the other direction closer to Shiro. But if they don't want to, there's a proven remedy. Carol throws another jar of stench at the knight's feet. The knights didn't expect the girl to have more jars like this stashed away. There was a flash. The knights groaned and begged for fresh air. Carol assured the soldiers that it was completely harmless to their health. Soldiers from all directions saw a flare from Mr. Brighton. They must hurry to him to avoid being reprimanded. All squads rushed to the aid of their commander. At that moment, Shiro breaks the rope with his hand. He's had enough fun already, and that's probably enough for today. The red-haired girl is shocked by the guy's behavior. He was the first to cause a commotion, and now he's running away. For Shiro, it's all like an amusement park. Life is short. You have to enjoy it. The girl knight pulls something out from behind her back. With a sudden movement, she throws her sword at Shiro. The boy calmly dodged the attack. Shiro jumped over the roof and began to catch up to Carol. The guy grabs the girl in his arms and suggests she leave the place for the day. But Carol expected Shiro to teach the ugly girl a lesson. The red-haired girl heard everything. She was angry because in fact she has a huge number of fans. Today it was just a greeting. He's going to stay here for a while. So the next meeting is just around the corner. Carol is excited that she'll get to play with those guys some more. Shiro and Carol leave the castle grounds very quickly. The girl shouts after them. She wants to end it all here and now. Suddenly another flask of stench falls near the girl. A flash of light illuminates the knight's face. She clearly wasn't expecting it. Now she'll probably want to catch these crooks. Meanwhile, a barefoot girl runs through the streets of the city asking for help. Judging by her condition and her clothes, she's been experimented on. The Lord of Castle Fang has promised a reward for her capture, and the palace guards are trying to catch her. The girl stumbles and falls face down. The guards have surrounded the girl. They haven't captured her yet, but they are already negotiating how they will divide the bounty. The girl doesn't want to go back there again. She remembers those days with hatred. There's no way she's going back there again. The girl gritted her teeth. It's getting chilly all around. Her eyes emit icy flames. The guards are terrified. They see a girl controlling the weather. She could be a witch. No sooner had the guards scattered in different directions than each of them turned into ice. The girl tries to run away again, away from these people. Suddenly, she sees a bright flash of light in front of her. Mrs. Messias appeared right in front of her. The frightened girl asks not to come any closer. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. The priestess takes a step towards it after all. She hugs the frightened child. It's all over now. There's nothing to fear. The girl is very happy to hear such warm words. Meanwhile, at the west end of Robbie Castle, Carol is appetizingly eating a portion of noodles. Shiro asks the girl to eat before they are recognized. After all, once rumors spread throughout the castle grounds, they won't be seeing such goodies anymore. Carol is ready for this outcome. As soon as someone refuses to cook for them, they can force them. Shiro is pleased that his student is grasping everything on the fly. The innkeeper watches the two closely. Suddenly, a man comes out of the service entrance and heads towards the innkeeper. The man told some urgent information. The innkeeper has ordered the two men captured. They are wanted for debauchery. Looks like the rumors have already reached this place. We need to do something about it right away. The best action by far would be to run away. The guards have spotted the intruders. They want revenge for the suffering their stink bombs have caused. Carol had more flasks of the stuff. Would the guards enjoy their flavor again? The stench covers the guards again. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl apologizes to Brighton. They failed to catch those criminals. Brighton reassures the knight, for the criminals proved too strong. The girl asks to gather all the forces of Robbie Castle to catch them. Brighton, on the other hand, suggests just giving up. First thing they need to do is find Nicole. The rest can wait. They'll be able to take down the criminals at another time. Nicole, here's a real monster and an important tool. The girl agrees with Brighton. Somewhere in the vicinity of Robbie Castle. On the first day, posters are put up all over the castle announcing the search for Shiro and Carol. It's a very exciting start. Shiro didn't notice where Mrs. Messias had gone. Carol sees her sitting by a tree. She's hugging some kid. Shiro and Carol moved closer to see who Mrs. Messias had brought. This poor child whose fate was predetermined from birth to live as a victim. The guards were looking for someone named Nicole, if that girl. That's right. The fate of the castle depends on her. The girl sleeps in the priestess's arms and rambles about her mother. Robbie Castle, the great library. A priest walks around the church and preaches a sermon. Soon, calamities will come upon the world. By abandoning their ideologies and trusting everything to God, they will be saved. This priest is the Lord of Robbie Castle, Mr. Fang. Brighton bursts into the main room with breaking news. Mr. Feng had warned more than once that Sir Brighton should not report any news while he was reading Divine Revelation. Brighton apologizes, but he should have informed His Majesty personally. Fang is aware of Nicole's disappearance and the uninvited guests on the castle grounds. Brighton was surprised at Mr. Fang's knowledge. If Sir Brighton, too, had given up his thoughts and listened to Divine Revelation, he, too, could have foreseen it. But for now, enough idle talk. It is better to listen to God's teachings. When old age comes, thick ice will crack the rock. Everyone will perish, and only the believers will be saved. Robbie Castle, Branchino Manor, Mrs. Alina has returned home. She went into her father's chambers. Her father called her in for an important conversation. He has very little time left, and before he goes, he has a story to tell. The Branchinos are a prominent family. When the old man dies, the girl will continue to be a representative of their family. Her father asks Alina not to be too hard on herself. He realizes it's his fault. He shouldn't have been so hard on her. But the girl, as a member of the family, wants to continue to fight for the ideals of Branchino. Such an answer disappointed his father a little. He realizes that his daughter can be relied on, but because she is a woman, there will come a time when she will have to face difficulties. Alina reassures her father. Nothing like this will happen to her. The old man is glad to hear that. Her father went back to bed. At that moment, a man approached them. He tried to feel for a pulse. The man said his time had come. Alina promised to protect their family until the very end. Meanwhile, in the vicinity of Robbie Castle, Shiro doesn't understand how the fate of the castle can depend on a little girl. Mesias explains that fate is not predictable, and that if she hadn't intervened that day, Shiro's fate would have just been to be a handful of ashes. Carol had a lot of sympathy for the girl, but Mrs. Mesias asked her not to scare her. Shiro reminded them that their main objective was to find the ice hammer, and saving the child was not the #1 thing on their list. Mesias told the guy that this girl's body contained the very shard of the ice hammer. It was all very strange. Who would think to do something like that? The girl is having nightmares again. She runs through a dark maze, trying to hide from someone and looking for help. Her foot catches the sudden chains. The girl loses her balance and falls to the brick floor. Turning around, she notices a huge hand coming towards her. Mr. Fang holds a shard in his hand and claims that his beloved princess has been chosen by the god. She must feel the divine blessing. Accept God's embrace. It pierces her body with a large ice shard. The power of the shard fills her body. The girl wakes up abruptly. Mistress Mesias waited for her awakening. The priestess approached the girl to comfort her. No one would hurt her now. A little girl tearfully hugs her new friend. It's late at night. The lights are on in the cottage near Robbie's castle. Shiro resents the fact that he has to cook dinner for everyone. Carol drops the basket of groceries and asks Shiro to shut up and just cook. The girl they saved needs food. Shiro doesn't like being bossed around and pushed around, but he is happy to surprise everyone with his cooking skills. Carol is so excited because she will get to taste her big brother's homemade food. Meanwhile in the room, the girl asks Mrs. Mesias why she saved her. It was fate's will. Fate helped a girl meet a priestess. They're all just slaves to fate. The girl is very scared Lord Fang tried to turn her into a monster. Mesias asks to share what happened to the girl. A sharp pain pierces the child's body and mind. It hurts her to remember it. It just hurts unbearably. At that moment, Shiro and Carol bring in a huge platter of food. Mesias suggests that she should eat properly. And then when she is strong enough, the girl can tell him what happened to her. The travelers set the table and called everyone to join them. They all need to replenish their strength. The girl thanks Shiro for his concern. In response, Shiro walked over and placed a hand on the girl's shoulder in a friendly manner. She had nothing to fear as long as she was with them. The moment Shiro removed his hand from her shoulder, a mysterious glow appeared. Mrs. Mesias also turned her attention to it. It was deep into the night. The little girl sleeps in the same bed as Carol. Meanwhile, Shiro is sitting on the roof. Mrs. Mesias has decided to keep him company. She doesn't want to leave the lonely hero alone. Shiro is tired. He doesn't want to work on the same team with the priestess anymore. It's boring. Mesias is surprised. Can the great hero of Lin Castle be tired? Shiro is tired of the uncertainty. He's not a full-fledged hero, but he's not a full-fledged villain either. He hates himself for it. Who is he really? But it doesn't matter. Anything Shiro does will be evaluated. It's the natural course of events. But the guy cares. This is good because they are both hopeless beings, so they can only do what they can. That's exactly the reason they're still together. They have no hope. Meanwhile, the runaway criminals are searched through the streets of the city. Alina and the palace guards are questioning passers-by. They're looking for both boyfriend and girlfriend. The man pointed his finger in the direction, saying he'd seen the guy there, but he hadn't seen this little girl before. Alina orders the guards to be on guard. At that moment, she heard a familiar voice. The voice inquired why the guards and knights were not resting at this late hour. Did they really work overtime and not even sleep a wink? Alina was sure that Shiro was a demon who had done terrible things at Lin Castle. Shiro was saddened to hear such accusations, for this information was false. Alina orders an attack on the guy. Lots of arrows flying at the guy, but all he had to do was wave his hand and all the arrows just scattered chaotically. 2 guards crept up behind him. One of them summoned the power of lightning. The second took advantage of the power of fire. Shiro had no problem grabbing both fists and didn't even feel a thing. The guards couldn't believe their eyes. The fact that they were able to learn so little information means that they have no idea that he is the invincible righteous thief Shiro. Shiro simply threw the guards off the dais. Alina noticed that things were bad. She bared her sword and called upon the strength of the Branchino family. Branchino's sword should teach this man who mocked Castle Lind a lesson. Shiro is pleasantly surprised. She can do something after all. The girl promptly attacks the guy. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mesias does not leave the girl's side for a moment. She's having nightmares again. She opened her eyes and remembered something. The girl jumped out of bed in horror. It was a church, and there were many corpses and blood inside. The beast mauled everyone to death. Mesias inquired how the girl was feeling. Her friends and her family all dead. They were all killed by that man, the Lord of Fang Castle. Mrs. Mesias had heard all she needed to know. And on the castle grounds, the battle is in full swing. Alina utilizes the knight's magical skills by summoning fireballs. This time, Shiro is impressed with the girl's strength. Alina launches fire clots at the guy. There's a series of violent explosions. It gets a little hot in here, and Shiro tries to lead the red-haired girl away. Alina rushes off in pursuit of the guy. The guards only have to watch, they can't catch up with them. The girl knight is not a step behind. Shiro scoffs at the girl. After all, she should be sleeping at this late hour so her pores won't open. But the girl doesn't care about these incitements. She carries the justice of the Branchino family, and will not allow the same thing to happen here that happened in Lord Castle. Shiro doesn't understand why Alina is still following him. If his squad has prepared a trap for her, and the girl can't defend herself. Most of all, the guy laughed at the word justice. What's Shiro trying to say with that? The glory of justice reminded Shiro of what had happened to him at his young age. Alina was angry, not at all like the kind of person who would break into a castle in broad daylight and make a fuss. That's not exactly what Shiro meant. Alina wonders why they kidnapped Lady Nicole. She is their princess. Shiro started laughing even harder. Is this trembling girl a princess? Shiro asked with a laugh. Alina asked what they were talking to her about, but the girl was never able to say anything. Suddenly, Shiro moved quickly. The guy appeared behind the night girl's back. Reacting quickly, she managed to fend off the attack. Shiro keeps the pressure on, but Alina stands firmly on her feet. The girl was scared. It was fear from the depths. It was visible to the untrained eye. The girl didn't believe the guy's words. This princess was chosen by the gods. She had nothing to fear. Shiro realized their minds were clouded. They had all been fooled. People with a strong sense of justice are the easiest to fool. Mistress Alina finds the strength to shrug off Shiro's pressure. Guy moves to a safe distance. Though the girl's brains are hopeless, she's not bad with a sword. Alina calls for the knight to come down and continue the fight. But instead, Shiro offers to make a bet. It makes no sense for him to kill the girl. Within 2 weeks, the world will change. Her so-called justice will be a joke. Lord Fang, Nicole, and even Brighton. They will all look different. If the guy loses, Alina can do whatever she wants to him. That's the kind of offer Shiro made. But what happens if Shiro is right? If the guy turns out to be right, the girl can continue to believe in her justice without being influenced by others. But she will need to be smarter about it. Alina doesn't believe a word the guy says, but she agrees to take his bet. Shiro tossed a coin. It would be the symbol of their wager. Alina silently accepted the mark. In 2 weeks, they will see what their so-called justice looks like. Shiro rushed away. Miss Alina is severely exhausted after their battle. She is too weak. After speaking with Lady Alina, Shiro headed back to the hut. Suddenly, a bright flash of light appeared near Shiro. Mrs. Mazias appeared beside Shiro. She was surprised that Lady Alina would like the boy. While the guy has some free time, Mazias offered to prove himself in a new place. The guy inquired about the place in question. The Church of the Holy Cross. This place is flooded with light and blood. Nicole said there are countless bones buried there, and many vengeful spirits are crying out for help. A nun carrying flowers. She turns to the god Antinous. Many people disappear one by one. The woman asks for the protection of all and the blessing of those who have disappeared without a trace. The attendant stepped out from behind the statue and addressed the woman as to what she was doing here at this late hour. She reported that she came to pray to God, hoping it would reduce the number of victims in disappearance cases. The man threatened the girl was next if she didn't go home now. The nun apologized. She will leave the church in a hurry. The woman went outside. She believes with all her heart that Antinous will protect them, for he is a great god. Suddenly she heard someone wondering if this was really the Church of the Holy Cross. Why the place where everyone offered their prayers looked so shabby. She spotted Shiro sitting in a tree and asked him to introduce himself. The guy jumped down from the tree and started walking towards the woman. In Castle Lind, people called him Shiro, a real righteous thief. The nun saw the mask on the guy's face. As God once said, those who hide their faces are villains. This guy must be up to something. And he was. The woman pulls out a knife. She wonders about the guy's true purpose. Does he really plan to wreak havoc here? Shiro looked at the knife. It was unlikely she would be able to do anything with such a toy, if she really decided to do something about it. The woman threatens, though she is a nun, she has been trained as a knight. In a second, the guy has the woman on her shoulder blades. Shiro is furious, can't she hear? Countless sleeping souls underfoot. They're crying right underneath her. The nun calls his words absurd. This is the holiest place in the castle. He can't do as he pleases. She won't let him insult God. Shiro punches his fist near her face and tells her to shut up. It was quite spectacular. Shiro asks her to close her eyes and listen carefully or he will kill her. The nun looks at Shiro and can't understand why he's so angry. She has no choice but to close her eyes to hear what he is saying. She immediately sensed that eerie aura. Unsettled souls are asking for help. Shiro lifted the nun up. He can see from her face that she understood what he was telling her. They offer prayers in this place every day without noticing the spirits that are unable to find peace. Isn't that ironic? The woman doesn't believe it. The guy must be using an illusion or some kind of trick. There is no way that a woman who is a nun in this place every day would not know about something so tragic. Shiro offers to make a bet again. If there are many corpses in this church, maybe the woman is even an accomplice. He will win, and she will obey the guy. But what happens if the nun wins? If the woman wins, she can do whatever she wants with the guy. The nun was skeptical of the suggestion. The woman is confused. She talks about how even if she loses this bet, she will never betray God. The guy is fine with that, but soon she forgets her words about loving God. The nun asks to follow her so the guy can be convinced he's wrong. The two of them entered the main hall. While Shiro looks around, the woman shows the guy her god they worship. All who enter the temple kneel and offer prayers. Shiro never bowed to any of them, but instead killed them. The nun tried to accuse the guy of insulting God, but he asked her to postpone the moment. Let her talk about God when she wins the bet. She soon realizes that all the problems of this world are caused by God. The acolyte reappeared in front of the statue. He asked the woman to leave the church, but she brought more people. Suddenly, Shiro jumped behind the servant's back. The guy's hand grabbed the man's head and pinned him to the floor with great force. From such a contact, even the holy brickwork could not resist. A man threatens the boy, for Lord Fang himself is behind him. Shiro is well aware of this and swings his fist. That's why the guy targeted this man. The man gritted his teeth. He would not forget this act. He summoned the power of the dead spirits to his aid, and they rushed toward Shiro. Does a man really hope that such a cheap trick can work? Guy uses his power of fire purification to destroy the spirits. In the blink of an eye, all the dead souls were incinerated. The man gets to his feet. Shiro hits a knee to the face with all his might. The blow was very strong, causing the acolyte to bleed. Shiro presses his face against the wall again. The guy wonders where the secret passage is. A man thinks he's a fool if a guy hopes to hear an answer to his question. Shiro offers two developments. Either the servant tells where the passage is and stays alive, or he dies, and Shiro finds it himself. The man laughed. His life depends only on his god Antinous. The boy dare not even think of deciding the fate of a servant. In the moment, the guy smashes the man's head in, he chose that path himself. The body of the believer fell to the ground. The nun is horrified as soon as the guy dares to kill a believing man in the temple of Antinous. Shiro will face divine judgment for what he's done. Shiro wouldn't mind challenging the god with his strength, if the god deigns to condescend to him. In the meantime, he asks to be taken to the basement if she doesn't want the same fate for herself. Nun realizes the guy isn't bluffing. She led him to the entrance leading to the base of the temple. The high priest had once traveled this way, but the others were forbidden to come down here. A strange feeling emanated from this place. Even the nun should have felt it, even though she had never seen a battlefield. She wouldn't believe anything she said until she saw it with her own eyes. They went down to the very bottom, to the base of the temple. A huge gate with angel wings was right in front of them. Shiro asks the nun to step back so he can open the gate. He holds out his bloody hand and puts his palm to the center of the gate. The gate began to open and emit an eerie red glow. A red mist oozed from the locked room. The nun fell to the ground. She was horrified at what she saw. No matter how pathetic they were, no matter how hard their lives were, in the end, they were nothing but victims. Huge pools of purple blood. Bodies and mountains of bones lay everywhere. A huge tree feeds on their unfulfilled dreams. The nun covers her face. One question in her mind. Why? But the answer is very simple. They were all killed to feed this big creature. Is it really true? The woman is in great shock. She was finally able to realize that the god they worshipped was not divine or noble. He was just a creature that was ravaging their bodies and souls. The woman was scared to death. Everything she believed was a horrifying lie. While the nun tries to come to her senses, Shiro decides to start a showdown with the servants of this false god. Abruptly, clawed demonic hands began to emerge from pools of blood. Shiro summoned a large fiery sword cleaving demons. A multitude of foul things showed their faces. It's time to show what they can do. Meanwhile, at the royal residence, Lord Fang felt that someone had entered the very same place. He urgently needs to do something about it. A crowd of demons approaches Shiro. Once, Shiro had already been to hell, which is why he can recognize souls like these. This world is an unprofitable place. Guy can hear their cries of regret, but even so, he still has to destroy them. Shiro rushed into the attack. Even if these are the same missing people the nun was talking about, Shiro has no other choice. The woman still can't understand what the point was. Meanwhile, in the hut where Shiro and his companions were, Carol is killing herself with boredom. She doesn't understand why Shiro left her alone. Why does she have to babysit the girl herself? She kind of doesn't mind helping, but she likes the fun at the castle better. Suddenly, an arrow whistles toward Carol. The girl heard her approach and was able to dodge the attack in time. She crept over to the window to look out and see what was going on. A multitude of guards surrounded the hut. Sir Brighton orders the capture of Lady Nicole. Lord Fang says to deliver her even dead. The archers draw the bowstring again. Carol is shocked. How did the difficulty level manage to skyrocket? She doesn't want to fight so many guards. A hail of arrows fly right into the girl's room. Carol takes off her cloak and wraps the girl up. If they manage to escape, the blonde will have to give Carol something tasty to eat. Carol grabbed the girl and accelerated to jump out the window. The guards didn't expect the girl to jump out to them on her own. Well, it's time to get ready. Carol softens her fall by stepping on the head of one of the guards. Things are very bad. They should run away as soon as possible. At that moment, Sir Brighton blocks their way. He demands that Lady Nicole be released. He uses the power of summoning to get the help of a huge knight. A large, ghostly hand looms over the girls. Carol summons a shield to hold back the attack. A hand presses down on the shield, pressing it into the ground. Carol won't be able to keep it up for long with this onslaught. Eventually, the shield cracks under the oppression of the ghostly hand. Carol flies off to one side, and Lady Nicole in the opposite direction. Carol promised her older brother Shiro that she would protect the girl at all costs. Sir Brighton walked over to Carol. He pinned the girl's head to the ground with all his might. Meanwhile, in the basement of the temple, Shiro dissects the last of the demons. These demons were created from the souls of the dead, but now they are gone. May they rest in hell instead of roaming this place. The nun frantically tries to find deeper and deeper truth in this. She can't believe her god has deceived her like this. That's all for now. They should go back to their comrades who are waiting for them. But no sooner had Shiro stepped back a few steps than the blood behind his back began to rise and speak to him. If the guy just got here, why leave so early? There must be something important that Shiro wanted to ask. Lord Fang's silhouette appeared out of the blood. Lord Fang's bloody projection greeted Shiro. Or should I have called him King of Knights Klein? Shiro threw his dagger sharply towards the instigator. The dagger went through and only splattered blood to the sides. Then the knight resorted to firepower. He summoned hellfire and unleashed it upon his opponent. As expected of the former King of Knights, no hesitation. But no matter how hard he tries, no matter how hard he fights, this castle will not change. The great god Antinous will soon awaken. Shiro turned around and headed for the exit. He didn't have time to delve into the pointlessness of dying. Lord Fang only laughed loudly in the guy's wake. As she left the main room, the nun turned to the boy. She had seen everything with her own eyes, but she still found it hard to believe what was happening. Antinous was the god they always believed in. He was the one who gave them peace and happiness. A woman can't just turn her back on Antinous. Then Shiro wants to show who people have really been worshipping all this time. Meanwhile, a very large number of people had gathered in the temple. Guards found the body of a worshipper inside the temple. Whoever dares to take on such a sin will be damned for life. At that moment, Shiro walked up to the main hall. The guards did not immediately recognize the man in the red cloak. One of the soldiers recognized him. He immediately guessed that the dead man was Shiro. The guards immediately try to surround the guy. They won't let him do such things again. Some of them even think that he is responsible for the disappearances of the town's inhabitants. The townspeople also began to stir up trouble. Could he be the demon Lord Fang had warned about? The faithful began to ask for Antinous' help in defeating the monster. Shiro looked at the statue of the false god. Guy's seen this before a long time ago. He was wrongfully accused and burned alive while everyone screamed at him. Clenching his fist, he was infuriated by the fact that truth always remains in the minority. Shiro scattered the guards. Only the one who stood farthest away was able to resist. The knight noticed something strange. Shiro jumped high toward the head of the statue of Antinous, the smirking head of a god. We need to show them the truth. Shiro slams his fist into the statue, trying to shatter it. The knight succeeded, and the statue began to crumble. She collapsed to the floor and raised clouds of dust. Once the dust settled a bit, the townspeople saw a horrifying sight. Many nasty worms were inside the statue. But the most interesting part was in the cocoon hidden in the base of the statue. The nun couldn't believe that there was something like this inside the statue. People were very disgusted by the sight. While everyone tries to restrain their gag reflexes, Shiro opens the package of dessert. He breaks the cocoon to bring the light of truth to blinded believers. But Shiro didn't find anything inside the cocoon. The real body was probably teleported somewhere. Back to Carol and Lady Nicole for a moment. Sir Brighton is threatening to end Carol's life. But the girl suggests not being so cocky. She crushes one of her stink flasks with her left hand. An acrid cloud of stench covers Sir Brighton. Carol's special stink bomb is back in action. Not only does it stink, but it also has a stunning effect. Carol knocks the man down. And afterward, trying to find the girl as soon as possible, Carol notices that Nicole is sitting up and not moving. The girl asks not to be caught. She begins to glow blue flames. Carol has stopped and is trying to figure out what's going on. Horror flashed in Nicole's eyes. She screamed at the top of her throat and unleashed a strong energy, which turned all the guards into ice sculptures. Sir Brighton, too, froze in place. Even Carol got caught in the act. Lady Nicole doesn't want to kill anyone else. Let's go back in time to Robbie's castle. At the time, Nicole had no idea what a gift fate had given her. She had to pay a terrible price for it. She passed the Genius Project test in which Lord Fang chose her. Nicole's mother was delighted to hear such wonderful news. Now the girl will be even stronger and will be able to protect more people. She fought the looming threat single-handedly, and she always won. Everyone was proud to have such a brave and strong advocate like Nicole. It was as good as it gets. But this false happiness soon came to an end. Nicole's powers were growing, and she was finding it increasingly difficult to control them. She didn't realize what was happening to her. Lord Fang knew everything perfectly well, but pretended that it was just a temporary side effect. He promised the girl he would take care of her and make her a better person. Nicole was too trusting in her choice of allies. But the real nightmare began that day. She calmed herself, asked her mind to be patient for a while and trust Lord Fang. But in fact, Lord Fang preferred to finish Lady Nicole's mission. The girl's last mission was to be death and sacrifice in the name of the god Constantinos. All hope turned to ashes. Nicole was very frightened and used the power of frost again. She managed to stop the sectarians. She miraculously escaped that trap. And I met Mrs. Mesius. Back in the present, the priestess noticed a huge pillar of blue color. Mrs. Mesius understands what's going on. Sipping his wine, Lord Fang also noticed a flash of light. An ancient god awakens at just the right moment. Shiro rushes in the same direction. He really hopes the girls are okay. Well, that's not without Lavis. He joined in at just the right time, too. Lady Nicole is trying to contain something inside herself. An evil god is awakening, asking to release all the anger lingering in Nicole's body. This world isn't worth protecting. A girl is trying to keep a promise she made to her mother. She must be good and not hurt anyone. Shiro is already near the scene. The energy emanating from the center of the glow freezes the knight's hands in an instant. Shiro miraculously holds back the onslaught of frost. He manages to shake off the icy shackles. It's the spinal fluid of an ancient god. It's completely absorbed into Lady Nicole's body. They're trying to use it as a vessel to resurrect the god. Shiro asks why Messias was absent during the attack on Carol and Nicole. She had sent Shiro to the church herself, but for some reason had not reported the attack. Messias had other important matters to attend to. She didn't have to keep Shiro informed about what had happened. The knight is furious, for once again, Messias does not tell all the information. But the priestess tells him that he'll figure it out when the time comes. It's enough that she saved his life. Shiro threatens to massacre the priestess if she plays a game with him, but for now he asks how to stop what's happening now. Messias suggests that the body is ready, but the energy isn't there yet. The magical core is still sealed. If they can stop the body and core from merging within 24 hours, they have a chance. Great, another crappy game. Lady Nicole got to her feet. An ancient god speaks in her voice, and he is delighted at the long-awaited meeting. He returned to that perfect land. Shiro sees that things aren't going well for them. We need to take this god back to hell. Looking at Shiro, the god was surprised, for before him stood an ordinary, humble man. Shiro prepares for the duel. He calls upon his knightly strength. Guy lunges and sends a slashing wave at his opponent. But you can't defeat an ancient god with such cheap tricks. Antinos blocks a jab with a wall of ice. Looking over to where Shiro was, Antinos didn't see him. He heard a guy running in a completely different place. Shiro grabbed an icy Carol. After running off a bit, he threw the icy girl in his arms to Messias. The priestess caught the girl. Shiro wondered if his friend would survive. She's not dead, so she'll be fine. Shiro begins to lose trust in the priestess as a comrade, but at least he asks her not to let anyone near him die. Messias promises to help Shiro. He can rely on her. Messias flies away, and Shiro returns to Antinous. God is surprised a guy would think of others at a time like this. Shiro noticed that Antinos didn't look strong, and he'd had to kill fallen gods like him before. If this is Karses we're talking about, you shouldn't compare Antinos to him. Well, it's time to check out their difference. Sir Brighton sees that Shiro is trying to thwart Antinous. The Guardian breaks out of the ice prison and attacks Shiro. Brighton pins the guy to the ground with his huge spirit. Shiro is shocked by Brighton's behavior. Sir Brighton appeals to the god and asks him to hasten to Lord Fang, who has long awaited his resurrection. It's a shame. Antinos really enjoys watching petty squabbles between people. No matter how many of them he sees, it's always interesting to him. Sir Brighton, too, is delighted at the return of Antinous. There is great hope for the ancient god. The ancient god is ready to go to Lord Fang. This fact infuriated Shiro, from which he gave into the ghostly onslaught. He must not allow Antinos to leave this place. While Shiro is distracted, Brighton rushes to strike him. Shiro notices the attack at the very last moment, but can't do anything about it. As a result, Shiro does a pretty good job of plowing himself into the ground. Brighton again asks Antinous to hurry up. He'll try to hold the guy back as much as possible. The ancient god made his way to Lord Fang for an audience. Originally, Shiro hadn't planned to kill Brighton, but it seems this time he left Shiro no other option. Sir Brighton will no longer allow Shiro to do whatever he wants on Robbie Castle grounds. It's time to see whose fists hit harder. Meanwhile, another detachment of guards came to the church. Lady Alina asks everyone to stand back. She too wants to understand what's going on here. How did the maggots appear in the middle of the statue? But more interestingly, how were they even fed? One of the guards reported that a sinister room had been found in the basement, but there were no one willing to check it out. Lady Alina volunteered to personally check out the premises herself. They went down to the bottom where 2 more guards stood at the entrance. Stepping inside, Alina was horrified. A huge ominous tree and countless corpses. What could all this mean? The girl stuck her hand into the pool of blood and lifted a stuffed rabbit out of it. Lord Fang, was what Shiro said true? How much is hidden in this city? A lot of people gathered outside Lord Fang's palace. Antinos follows the red carpet to the palace. God remembers those wonderful feelings of being bowed down before you. Lord Fang watches from the window for the approaching god. At last, the long-awaited god has come down to the people. The guards ask Antinos to follow to Lord Fang's room. It was strange that the Lord didn't personally come down to greet his god. This time Antinous spares him in gratitude for his resurrection. The guards escort the god up the spiral staircase. Lord Fang is pleased to finally meet Antinous. He had waited so long for this day. The guards interjected. It was about time to leave the room and leave them alone. Purposeful, shrewd, and with mad ambition, these qualities are essential for a servant of a god. Antinous likes that. God recognizes Lord Fang as his slave. The man slyly replies that he is honored. But why has he still not bowed his knee? Even the most faithful servant must bow his head to a god. Fang apologized, but isn't there something more important? Antinous forgives his servant's ignorance this time for his loyalty and courage. Now we need information about the ice hammer, a weapon only a god can use. But the man apologizes. There is no such opportunity at the moment. What could it all mean? Lord Fang didn't spend decades studying the gods to become a slave. Antinos asks the man to speak more clearly. Fang found something interesting in the books he read. They described human neural structures and how to control consciousness. It's a great book. It taught him about controlling only one mind means controlling all of them. Suddenly, the book falls to the floor. Lord Fang is holding 2 wooden objects in his hands. He bangs them against each other, creating sound waves. The girl's body goes rigid. Antinos can't understand what's happening. Somehow the sound coming from these instruments affects the girl's body. Feng won't stop hitting the woodwork. It brings wild torment to Antinous. Now the god Antinous himself must bow his knees to his master. God is not willing to bow down, much less to man. Lord Fang smacks the wooden tools even harder and orders a bow. Pain pierces the girl's body, but the god feels it himself personally. His legs are shaking. Fang won't stop until Antinos bows to him. God can't stand it and falls to his knees. Lord Fang is more pleased with himself than ever. His plan has succeeded. The man purposely used the little girl's body as a vessel. After all, if you destroy a beautiful girl, all the beauty in this world also collapses. He purposely injected this liquid into Nicole's body. It contained a black magic potion to control Nicole. This fluid wasn't just Antinous' god's spinal fluid. As a result, Nicole's body became God's personal prison. And now the only one who must kneel is the ancient god Antinous. Meanwhile, near the temporary shelter of Shiro and his comrades, Sir Brighton has been stripped of all his powers. Shiro kicked him in the face. It's time to get it over with. The man was a common fool and consequently lost the fight with Shiro. But Brighton thought otherwise. Shiro was puzzled as to how it had occurred to them to bring a god to life. A god they would have to serve. A god they didn't understand. A god by whose hand they would die. Brighton laughed at Shiro's words. They understood everything perfectly well. The narrow circle of people knew that the words about a savior, a god, it was all just a lie to fool the stupid masses. Shiro couldn't believe his ears. From the beginning, God was their target. Serving God? Who in their right mind would want to serve God? Shiro seems to have guessed he urgently needs to move to the palace. Sir Brighton was chained to the ground with huge swords. He laughed and shouted, praising Lord Fang and asking to be shown the power of the god he had created. Storm clouds began to gather over Robbie's castle. What the hell is going on in this town?